Most people fail keto before their body ever enters ketosis. Not because keto doesn't work, but because nobody taught them how to start correctly. So they cut carbs for 2 days, feel terrible, get cravings, lose energy, and assume their body can't do keto. That is not the problem. The real problem is that their body has spent years depending on sugar, and nobody prepared them for the transition. Because switching from a sugar-burning body to a fat-burning body is not just a diet change. It is a metabolic shift, and if you do it incorrectly, it can feel miserable. But if you do it correctly, something incredible begins to happen. The cravings calm down, the constant hunger disappears, your energy becomes stable, your thinking becomes clearer, and your body finally starts accessing the fuel it has been storing for years. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to start a ketogenic diet the right way. Not the complicated way, not the internet influencer version. The real-world version that actually helps people succeed. Let's start with the most important concept. A ketogenic diet is not a high-protein diet. It is not a starvation diet. And it is definitely not a just avoid bread diet. A ketogenic diet is best understood with 3 simple rules. No sugar, no starch, high fat. That's it. And I know that last part sounds strange because for the last 50 years, people have been taught to fear fat. Low-fat yogurt, low-fat snacks, low-fat everything. But what happened? People became more overweight, more diabetic, more inflamed, and more metabolically damaged than ever before because the problem was never natural fat. The problem was the constant flood of processed carbohydrates and sugar. The body was never designed to handle that amount that often. So when we remove sugar and starch and replace them with healthy fats, something changes. Insulin begins to fall. And when insulin falls, your body can finally access stored fat. That is the entire goal. Now, before we go further, I want you to remember one number, 20. That number matters because for most people starting keto, 20 grams of carbohydrates per day is where we begin. Not net carbs from internet math games. Real carbohydrates, about 20 grams per day. Now, some people can tolerate more later. But in the beginning, your body needs clarity. It needs a strong signal that the glucose supply is changing. And 20 grams is usually enough to begin that transition. Now, before you even start this diet, I want you to do something that surprises many people. I want you to go spend some money. Not on fancy supplements, not on keto cookies, not on expensive powders. I want you to buy urine ketone strips. They're inexpensive, usually around $15, and they are one of the most powerful teaching tools in the beginning of keto because they give feedback, real feedback. So many people start keto, and after a few days they say, this isn't working. But when I ask them if they are producing ketones, they have no idea. That's like trying to drive across the country with no dashboard. Ketone strips help you understand what your body is doing. If you are not producing ketones after several days, your body is still getting too many carbohydrates. Simple as that. And this is important because every person's metabolism is different. Some people enter ketosis quickly. Others take time, especially people with insulin resistance, especially people with fatty liver, especially people who have spent years flooding their body with sugar. Those patients often need more patience and more consistency, not more quitting. Now, while we're talking about support tools, there's another thing worth mentioning, MCT oil, specifically C8 and C10 MCT oil. These fats are unique because they convert into ketones very quickly in the liver. Think of them as training wheels during the early transition. They can help your body begin producing ketones while your metabolism is still adapting. Now, understand this clearly. You do not need MCT oil to succeed. But for some people, especially beginners struggling with energy, it can help. Now, let's move to one of the hardest but most important parts, your environment. Before starting keto, clean out your cupboards. And I mean really clean them out. Because keto is not just physical, it is behavioral. Most people underestimate this. They think cravings are only about hunger. They are not. Cravings are connected to habits, routines, emotions, and environment. If cookies are sitting on your counter, your brain notices. If chips are in the cupboard, your brain remembers. That visual trigger matters. Just like alcohol matters to an alcoholic trying to recover, just like cigarettes matter to a smoker trying to quit. Processed carbohydrates trigger the reward centers of the brain in very powerful ways. And when those foods are constantly around you, you are fighting temptation every hour. So make your home safe. Remove the processed foods, the sugary snacks, the cereals, the crackers, the pasta, the rice, the white flour, the frozen processed meals, and pay attention to ingredient lists. One of the simplest rules I teach is this. If a product has a long list of ingredients you can barely pronounce, it probably does not belong in your body. Now here's something important. After cleaning out your cupboards, pause. Do not immediately rush to refill them with expensive keto products. Give yourself a few days, because this is where many people make another mistake. They remove junk food, then immediately buy keto junk food. Keto bars, keto desserts, keto candy, keto snacks, and many of these products still keep the brain addicted to sweetness. Instead, simplify. Focus on real food, eggs, meat, fish, avocados, olives, butter, cheese, vegetables, natural fats, simple foods. Because in the beginning, your goal is not to become a keto chef. Your goal is to become metabolically flexible. Now let's return to that number 20. 20 grams of carbohydrates per day. This is where most people should start. And then we observe. We watch the ketones, we watch the cravings, we watch the energy. And one of the most important lessons people learn during keto is this. They were not actually hungry as often as they thought. They were riding blood sugar swings. Because when your diet is based on carbohydrates, your glucose rises quickly, then falls quickly. And when it falls, hunger appears. But when fat becomes your fuel, energy becomes steadier. Hunger becomes calmer, less urgent. And this brings us to one of the most misunderstood parts of keto. You must eat enough fat to feel full. This is where people panic because they have spent years being told that fullness is dangerous, that calories are the enemy, that fat should be avoided. So they start keto, but they still eat tiny portions. And then they wonder why they feel terrible. The body needs fuel, especially during adaptation. Fat is not the enemy here. Fat is the bridge. It helps the body transition away from sugar dependence. And many people no longer even recognize the feeling of true satiety. They know cravings. They know fullness from overeating junk food. But true hormonal satiety, many haven't felt it in years. That's why sometimes I give patients a very unusual experiment. I tell them to eat butter. Yes, real butter, not margarine, not fake spreads, butter. Because when you eat pure fat, something fascinating happens. At first, your brain resists the idea, but eventually, your body reaches a point where it says, enough. That feeling is satiety, not stomach stretching, not carb bloating, hormonal satisfaction. And once patients learn that feeling, everything changes because now they stop eating according to the clock and start eating according to biology. This leads to another important rule. Eat only when you are hungry. Not because it is breakfast time, not because everyone else is eating, not because the commercial said you need snacks every 2 hours. Real hunger matters, and most people have lost touch with it. They wake up and eat breakfast automatically, even when they are not hungry. Then they snack, then lunch, then another snack, then dinner, then dessert. The body never gets a break. Insulin never falls. Fat cells never open. But keto changes this. When fat becomes your primary fuel, your body gains access to stored energy. And when your body trusts that energy is available, the panic around food begins to fade. That constant need to eat every few hours disappears. Now understand this carefully. The first week can still feel difficult, especially if your previous diet was heavy in sugar and processed foods, because your body is withdrawing from constant glucose stimulation. During that transition, you may feel tired, headaches, mood swings, cravings. This is often called the keto flu. But most of the time, it is not a lack of carbohydrates. It is a lack of electrolytes, especially sodium. When insulin falls, the kidneys release more water and salt, so your body needs replacement. This is why adding salt becomes very important during keto adaptation. Not avoiding salt, adding it. Broth helps, mineral salt helps, electrolyte support helps, and hydration matters too. Now here is something most people never hear. Success on keto is not measured by perfection. It is measured by consistency, because your metabolism is learning a new system. And learning takes repetition. The body has spent years practicing sugar burning. It takes time to become efficient at fat burning, but once it happens, the difference is remarkable. Stable energy, less brain fog, reduced cravings, better appetite control, and for many people, real weight loss for the first time in years, not because they starved themselves, but because their hormones changed, their insulin lowered, and their body finally accessed stored fat. So if you are thinking about starting keto, do not overcomplicate it. You do not need expensive products. You do not need perfection. And you definitely do not need to fear fat. You need understanding. You need consistency. And you need enough patience to let your metabolism adapt. No sugar, no starch, high fat, around 20 grams of carbs. Check your ketones. Clean your environment. Eat until full. And eat only when truly hungry. Simple. Not always easy, but incredibly powerful when done correctly. I'm Dr. Sean Dozbo, and now you know how to start keto the right way.